Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Dear Dietitian, where you ask the questions and we answer them. Today, as you can see, we have a special guest, Feren, the nutrition guy, link here. We'll be asking him some questions on a follow-up of the Dietitian Life episode we just filmed, and we'll see what he has to say. All right, so we'll just jump into it. What does it take to create a successful Instagram or personal brand?
I think it's about being unique. I often have this discussion with a lot of dietitians, and particularly new grads who are interested in getting on social media. And my first question is why? What do you want to achieve? So I think it's obviously great to put out a message, or if you want to put out your philosophy as well. I mean, I've got an all foods fit, and I'm sort of probably practice a more of a non-diet approach. But I think when it comes to building a unique brand, I think you've got to have a point of difference. I think early on, my point of difference was my aprons. And to be honest, I had no love for aprons before I started Instagram, but it was just a bit of an excuse to say, hey, I'm a little bit quirky, I'm a little bit different. So it certainly evolved from that. But I think find your point of difference, find your voice, and just have fun with it and learn. I think that's the biggest thing. I've been on Instagram now for almost 4 years, and it's been a real learning experience.
Yeah. So are you constantly looking at different tactics and looking at what other people are doing, or reading about changes in there? Because obviously it updates very frequently.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't get too bogged down in the detail. I think I just try to put out, I think now I found my happy place, where I still put up photos of me in aprons, but that's more to just get my face out there as well, because my Instagram is me as a brand. So it's not just good enough for me to put out food. I think I need to have that presence as well. But yeah, I think sometimes we can get sucked into, how many followers you get and how many likes you get and comments and the like. But I think it's just about putting out good content and seeing what mostly resonates with your audience. And hopefully, obviously, you still get that growth and that reach. But I try not to get too bogged down in things like algorithms and strategies and certain tactics.
Yeah, and it takes time. It's not like, all right, I'm going to put up 5 photos and now I've got 1,000 followers. It's like...
It would be great if that happened.
Oh, man, it would be great.
Yeah, but I've been toiling pretty hard on the gram for almost 4 years, so closing in on 6,000. But yeah, it's been a bit of a process. But at the end of the day, I think it's all good and well. I mean, having 5,000 or 10,000 or even 100,000 followers, but if your message will resonate with one of those people, or it might hit the target of a media or someone influential, I think there are certain opportunities to be had through Instagram. So irrespective of followers and the like.
Yeah, if you're bringing value, then
absolutely
valuable. And then that one view can be all you need. If it's the right viewer. So
definitely, I wholeheartedly agree.
Cool. Good answer. All right. You've said in Dietitian Life that you worked in aged care previously. Can you tell new grads or students coming through what it's actually like to work in aged care, and maybe some of the common clients or challenges and joys?
Yeah. Well, look, there's nothing romantic about working in aged care. I guess the type of resident that I will see is, little old Betty who's lost 5 kilos in the last couple of months, is not eating well, maybe she's had some cognitive decline or a recent fall or recent hospital admission. But I actually find it a lot of fun. And I think for me, the highlight is the relationship building. I love working with old people. And I think when it comes to food, I think it's so much more than a source of nutrition. I think food promotes quality of life, and sometimes it's the last thing that these people have in their world. So I feel like I can play a pretty fundamental role in improving that quality of life. So while there's nothing romantic about it, and some of the cases are not overly challenging, there's still a lot of reward to be had working in aged care. So I still keep my finger in that pie. I mean, it was one of my first jobs when I graduated, and I still consult a little bit in that space. And it's something that I actually really enjoy because Yeah, because I love meeting with, you know, little old Betty and her neighbour Basil down the corridor. I think it's a lot of fun.
Do you get, is it mostly high protein, high energy type work pretty much through and through?
Absolutely. Yeah. So promoting the extra creams and butters and whatever else, and then looking at some of those supplement drinks too.
Yeah.
So
Do you have a favourite supplement that you always went to?
Look, you know,
I've got
Tyson, you know, I work for Abbott, so I should probably say Ensure and 2Cal, but it really depends on what the facility uses. How's that? But
Sorry about that. That slipped my mind.
I know we in Dietitian Life we just talked about some of the wins that I've had, and one of my favourite products is the new Flavor Creations non-melting ice cream. Yeah. I think there's nothing quite like it on the market, and I think for those residents who are on thickened fluids who actually love ice cream,
they all love ice cream.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so calorie dense as well, 3 kilocalories per meal. I had a wonderful case recently where a lady had a neurological disorder. It was progressive. She was on extremely thickened fluids and she loved ice cream. And that was one of the things that she really, really looked forward to. So once again, that promoting that quality of life, I think, is really, really important for us. I think sometimes we can be a bit too clinical, trying to meet someone's energy and protein requirements, but also, you know, what are their loves? What do they want to eat or drink? And I think, you know, even putting a shot of whiskey in their sustagen milkshake, if that promotes that quality of life, then I see that as a wonderful thing that I can offer.
Yeah, and like, I wholeheartedly agree. I would probably give that lady ice cream 3 times a day if she, you know, she wants to wake up and have it for breakfast. Go for it.
Absolutely, it's when we can get that nutrition in, but obviously, yeah, promoting that quality of life. So, yeah,
especially if he's losing weight, doesn't really feel like having any other breakfast. It's just like, well, do you want ice cream? Yes, I would love ice cream. You can have it. I liked that. Like, so when I worked in aged care, like that was some of the stuff that the ice cream wasn't out then, so I didn't have that option. But just stuff around the supplements, if they actually enjoyed them, like they enjoyed the flavored milk, it's just like the biggest win. And then you can go, all right, well, you can get quality of life plus all the nutrition through this. Like, don't stress about having to eat all your veggies. If you want the steak, have the steak. You know, like
absolutely.
Like people. I remember even myself when I was going through dietetics, I thought, I don't want to work in a hospital. Prior to my placement, don't want to work in a hospital because I'll just be doing high protein, high energy all the time. I want to be able to, you know, expand clinically and do something more challenging. However, you know, malnutrition is actually quite challenging, and you have to be very, very strategic. And you talked about in Dietitian Life about thinking outside the square and thinking laterally. And I think that's something that becomes a skill when you're working with that client group, rather than just people just going, oh no, supplement. You know, there's so many different things that you can do to modify meals simply, not just in aged care, but in the community with people that are post-discharge from hospital, that kind of stuff, to actually do that. And, you know, you mentioned about the whiskey in the milkshake. My favorite one was just like this lady had been avoiding having a Macca's cheeseburger for like 10 years because like, oh, it's bad for me, you know. A lot of the time, I don't know whether you found it, a lot of the old people, when they're sick, they go, oh, I need to eat all my veggies. Like, that's what's going to make me better. It's just like, well, no. Like, you push them to the side for a second. We need to get some energy into you. And like, I'm like, go have some Macca's if you want Macca's. So what, really? And she had it, ended up having it once a week for the time that I saw her for like 3 years or whatever. She loved it. It was like that quality of life. She was just like over the moon every time she would do it. So it's only a small thing, but, you know, and not nutritionally what a dietitian may believe is, you know, but like you say, it's more than just like protein, energy, fat, and micronutrients. It's the quality of life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think one of the joys working in aged care is that I'm actually quite well liked. I mean, I'd like to think I'm a likable guy, but, you know, when I go meet some of these residents and I'm promoting things like milkshakes and double thick custards and whatever else, I mean, you know, the joy that can bring, it's certainly different to, I know obviously you work in private practice, and sometimes
weight management,
encourage some of those non-core foods, as we talk about.
Yeah.
So some people
like taking away things versus
putting things back in, and those things that create so much joy and bring those beautiful memories. And I think that's what we can offer the oldies living in aged care, because they probably enjoyed milkshakes. They probably enjoyed them when they were a teenager, or even.
We all enjoy milkshakes.
Well,
unless you're lactose intolerant, but.
Well, there's ways around it.
Yeah, there's ways around it. Even in the hospital, just about them loving, because I was always well liked because of that. Whereas occupational therapists and physios who'd have to try and get them up and do things, they didn't really like them because they were making them do stuff. Whereas I was like, have some ice cream, have some flavored milk, some extra, eggs, sweet, you can have them. And it's just good. I completely agree. It's completely opposite to the standard private practice. You got the standard hospital, which is high protein, high energy, and then you've got the standard private practice, which is weight management, chronic disease management. Both can be very enjoyable, but there's that difference of immediate liking you versus having to get weight off or decreasing their blood sugar levels, and then they really like you. So both can be great wins, but cool.
Definitely. And I like when you talked before about being strategic, and one of my projects last year was actually working with Abbott and creating cookbooks.
Yep.
Creating some of these high energy, high protein recipes with the added Ensure powder. So it was a lot of fun thinking how I could get that extra nutrition into a traditional recipe.
Yeah.
It's another string to our bow, if you like, of the things that we can do and we can offer these residents.
Always love doing that with the people in their homes, just trying to find little sneaky ways you can do that. Yep. It's delicious. You should try it. I think that's important as well, just to try a lot of those stuff. I know some dietitians always go, I don't want to try the supplement or whatever. It's you're telling people to drink these. You need to know and be able to advocate for it. If you're doing a meal, buy a tin of Substitute and give a couple of different meals a go. Make sure it still works. Make sure the texture's fine. Make sure there isn't any change in look or consistency that would scare a client off. I think it's a really important part of dietetics that a lot of people don't realize, and they kind of shy away from. I don't know if you've thought the same.
Yeah, well, obviously I've got to try some of the recipes that I create, but I'll never forget being in hospital and being forced to try some of the pureed meals and minced moist. So it's really important that we not only sympathise with our patients. I think it's more than that. We've got to empathise. We've got to come from a place of common ground and to at least understand the issues that they're going to face. Because sometimes, as I said, we can be a little bit too clinical about it, but we've got to see that human side of things. So, totally agree with you.
Yeah,